Greetings, brethren and friends. My name is Merrick Reeshamer. I'm a past master of Culver City Foshay Lodge, number 467, Free and Accepted Masons of the state of California. Welcome to this second edition of the library podcast. We have a magnificent library here at Culver City Foshay, and it's huge. As one can see, it's panoramic shelves in this particular room, and something like 5,000 volumes we have in our library. And I believe last installment we featured a book by Johann Baptist Kerning called Letters on the Royal Art. And it was a magnificent book, and one with which I hope every Freemason becomes familiar. Today I want to feature another book by Walter Leslie Williamhurst, called The Meaning of Freemasonry. It's well established throughout the Masonic world, and here I have a copy of it right here. First of all, Williamhurst is a Freemason from England, and he was at one time the Grand Provincial Recorder of one of the Grand Lodge's constituents in England. And he is somewhat of a mystic and a Freemason. He's recognized that Freemasonry over the years has recognized three principal tenets, which all Freemasons with which they have become familiar: brotherly love, relief, and truth. It seems that Williamhurst has recognized the abundance of the exercise of brotherly love and relief within the fraternity, but recognizes somewhat of a deficiency in the establishment of truth, which he recognizes the core of Freemasonry. And consequently, he perceives that the fraternity has become a large social institution and one that is known for its charitable acts. Now, in no wise is he, nor am I, suggesting that charity should be diminished in view of the importance of truth. I'd like to remind the fraternity the importance of charity, and I thought I would just read a little statement from Albert Pike, one of the great Masonic authors and philosophers. He says, charity, says a fine old writer, is the great channel through which God passes all his mercies upon mankind. For we receive absolution of our sins in proportion to our forgiving our brother. This is the rule of our hopes and the measure of our desire in this world. And on the day of death and judgment, the great sentence upon mankind shall be transacted according to our alms, which is the other part of charity. God himself is love, and every degree of charity that dwells in us is the participation of the divine nature. Charity is indispensable within our institution. Having said that, I want to discuss what is meant by truth. How do we interpret Freemasonry and its purpose in our lives? It's important that we practice charity for the benefit of the society that we promote and the support of humankind. It is important that we have the tools of social gathering to induce fraternalism and to promote the happiness of each other. But we pass through three degrees called the apprentice, the fellow craft, and the master mason. And what do these teach us about truth? If we look at the third degree of Freemasonry, we have to look at tradition as it derives from religion. Freemasonry is not a religion per se, but it certainly borrows religious ideas to convey important truths and realities. One thing that Wilhelm has recognized is that every society of ancient times, the great mystery schools, including Freemasonry, including Rosicrucianism, even including religions themselves, have portrayed in some way a tragedy to help us understand the meaning of life and the preciousness of life. Christianity, of course, tells us the story of Christ and the crucifixion. Well, Freemasonry has devised a similar tragedy to teach us a lesson. It's called the Hiramic legend, the story of Hiram Abiff. Hiram Abiff was the architect of the temple. The story of Hiram Abiff is actually a fiction. It is not derived from the Bible itself. The Bible tells us that King Solomon sent and had a Hiram sent out of Tyre to assist in the building of the temple. But that's all that it really tells us. It doesn't tell us about the tragedy. That is something that is created by the fraternity to impress upon the mind the value of life. So, when we look at death, we have to look at death as a window into the future life. A life that is not physical. Our physical part of us has been diminished. It has served its purpose, and life goes on unto a spiritual realm. Understanding that realm is what the degrees of Freemasonry teach us. We know that when we build the temple of truth, the spiritual temple as a place of worship, we know that that house was not built with hands. It was not built with tools of iron or any sort of metallic substance, because it's a mental, spiritual temple. It's created without noise of metal clanging against metal. It's created in the soul. So when we're asked to divest ourselves of minerals and metals, it serves two purposes. The surface purpose is to teach us charity, what it is like to pass through life having nothing, and to recognize others who have nothing, and when we can give to them. We call that the rite of destitution. It forces us into feeling the pains and sufferings of others so that we can be of benefit to them. So we have no metals or minerals with which to do our work. But on the other hand, we are building spiritual temples, not physical temples. Even as the citizens of Israel prayed to God, faces to the ground, that God would come down from heaven, take establishment of the mercy seat, and proclaim approval of the work on the house. Our destiny in life is to build our spiritual temple in hopes that God will come into our lives, approve of our work, and give us fortification to work with humankind, to care for humankind, to improve humankind, and in general to uplift the human condition. And we do this with our minds and our soul, not with our hands. So this book sets us on the path to understanding Freemasonry from a very deep perspective. Take, for example, the simple apron that is gifted the candidate when he passes through his first degree of Freemasonry. He's told that it is an apron that he'll wear to protect his clothing from being soiled. This is true, but that's just a superficial meaning. We are told that it is a badge of a Mason, that it is derived from a lambskin indicating innocence and purity. And these are important understandings. But we can look further at this apron, and Wilmshurst helps us to understand that. We look at the apron, and there are two parts of it. There's a big square, and there is a triangle. The square can denote earthly things. It has four corners on it, thus referring to the four cardinal directions of the earthly plane. But we have also the triangle with three angles, denoting a more celestial realm. We think of the four cardinal virtues, temperance, fortitude, prudence, and justice, alluding to the earthly plane. But we also recognize the theological virtues of faith, hope, and charity. They're all illustrated in this simple apron. This is an apron that would have been gifted a master mason after he's been raised to the degree. And this is an apron that would have been issued at the time of Wilmshurst, when he was writing about the apron. And you'll notice it's a blue bordered apron. He describes blue as a color of spiritual meaning. It's often associated with morality. But he recognizes that this apron, having the usual parts, the square and the triangle, but it's also equipped with two columns descending from on high, rays of light. And then at the bottom of the columns, they manifest into 7 tassels, denoting the prismatic spectrum of light, where white light divides into the colors, what we know as the color of the rainbow: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. We have 2 columns. One can reflect on it, and I believe even Wilmshurst makes this allusion, where we have the crucifixion of Christ between 2 thieves. Biblically, they were known as Dismas and Gostus, one of which cried out that, if you are truly the Son of God, you can take us down from these crosses. On the other hand, Dismas said, no, we deserve what we're about to receive. Forgive me. Remember me in paradise. So we have a duality here of severity and mercy, represented by these 2 thieves. Wilmshurst recognizes the value of Kabbalah in his studies, and we see the 2 columns of severity and mercy so well established in that system called Kabbalah, and the pillar of beauty at the center. The rosettes refer to these aspects of generated life after death. It's really a Rosicrucian idea that manifests somewhat in Freemasonry with the rosettes. So I encourage direction to this book. It'll teach us much. And in fine, I encourage everyone to pay attention to these podcasts. They'll be coming out periodically. And until next time, we'll have another edition of something to read, something to share with our enthusiastic audience. I also want to welcome anyone to our Meet the Masters. It's an open house, basically, that we have here at the Lodge every Sunday morning from 10 o'clock until noon. And you can visit our library, take a look at the books, and just enjoy yourselves with some coffee and donuts, whatever we have being served that day. Welcome back. Thank you all.